You know what they say about assuming, right? Well, this dating app scammer was about to learn that lesson the hard way when he decided to target my 55-year-old Aunt Tasha. He thought he'd found the perfect victim, a lonely older woman, recently divorced, probably desperate for companionship. Boy, was he wrong. This guy had no clue that my aunt wasn't just any ordinary woman. Behind that sweet profile picture and kind messages was someone with a past that would make his blood run cold. And when she finally revealed who she really was, this scammer got the shock of his pathetic life. So let me paint you a picture. My Aunt Tasha had been married for 30 years when her husband decided he wanted to find himself with his 20-something secretary. Yeah, classic midlife crisis story. After the divorce was finalized, Tasha was actually doing pretty well. She got the house, half the assets, and most importantly, her freedom back. But you know how family can be. Everyone kept telling her she needed to get back out there, find someone new, start dating again. You're only 55, Tasha. You've got so much life left to live. So finally, just to get everyone off her back, she downloaded one of those dating apps. Now, Tasha wasn't naive. She'd heard all the horror stories about online dating scams, but she figured she was smart enough to spot the red flags. What she didn't expect was how sophisticated these scammers had become. His name was David Wilson. At least that's what his profile said. Handsome guy, supposedly a widower, claimed to be a successful businessman who traveled a lot for work. His photos looked legitimate, not too perfect, not too casual. He had that silver fox thing going on that probably worked on a lot of women his age. David started messaging Tasha with all the right words. He was charming, attentive, asked about her interests. He didn't immediately start talking about love or asking for money like the obvious scammers do. No, this guy was playing the long game. For weeks, they chatted every day. He'd send good morning texts, ask about her day, share stories about his business trips to various countries. He even sent her pictures of sunsets from different cities, claiming he was thinking of her while traveling. Tasha had to admit, it felt nice to have someone paying attention to her again. David was good, really good. He remembered details about Tasha's life, asked about her garden, her book club, her volunteer work at the animal shelter. He shared stories about his late wife, how hard it was to lose her to cancer, how he'd been afraid to open his heart again until he met Tasha. They started having video calls, but there was always some excuse for why the quality was poor or why he couldn't talk long. Bad connection overseas, important business meeting coming up, tired from traveling. Tasha noticed these things, but David was so convincing, so consistent in his story. He told her about his successful import-export business, showed her pictures of containers and shipping documents. He talked about his grown children, who lived across the country, how proud he was of them. Everything seemed to check out. About 2 months in, David's messages started getting more romantic. He was falling in love with her, he said. She was the light of his life, the woman he'd been waiting for. Tasha felt herself getting swept up in it despite her better judgment. Then came the first request. David was on a business trip in Malaysia, he said, and there was a problem with his bank account. Some international banking issue that was preventing him from accessing his funds. He needed just a small loan, $500, to cover his hotel bill until he could get back to the States and sort everything out. Tasha paused. This was exactly what everyone warned about. But David had been so consistent, so genuine, and it wasn't like he was asking for thousands of dollars right away. Still, something in her gut told her to be careful. She told David she'd think about it, that she needed to check her own finances. His response was perfect, understanding, not pushy at all. He said he was embarrassed to even ask, that he'd pay her back the moment he got home. But here's where David made his biggest mistake. He didn't just ask once and let it go. Over the next few days, his messages became more urgent. The hotel was threatening to kick him out. He'd missed an important business meeting because of this banking issue. He was stranded in a foreign country with no way to get home. Tasha told him she was still thinking about it, but David's patience was starting to wear thin. His messages became more manipulative. Didn't she care about him? Didn't she want to help the man she claimed to love? How could she just leave him stranded like this? That's when Tasha knew for sure. This was definitely a scam. But instead of just blocking him and moving on, Tasha decided to have a little fun. You see, what David didn't know was exactly who he was trying to scam. Tasha had been very careful about what she shared with David. She'd told him she was a retired teacher, which was technically true. For about 5 years after college, she had taught elementary school. But that was a long, long time ago. What she hadn't mentioned was her real career. For 25 years, Tasha had worked for the FBI. Not as a secretary or analyst, but as a special agent specializing in financial crimes and fraud investigation. She'd taken down money laundering operations, investment scams, and yes, romance scammers just like David. Tasha had retired from the bureau just before her marriage fell apart, but she'd kept in touch with her old colleagues. She still had contacts, resources, and most importantly, she still had her skills. While David was busy spinning his sob story about being stranded in Malaysia, Tasha was doing what she did best: investigating. She ran his photos through reverse image searches and found they belonged to a completely different person, a real businessman from Colorado who had no idea his pictures were being used by scammers. She traced his IP address through their video calls and discovered he wasn't in Malaysia at all. He was operating from an internet cafe in Lagos, Nigeria. She found his real social media profiles, his actual name, even pictures of his family. But Tasha wasn't done. She wanted to know how big this operation was. So she started playing along with David's scam while secretly documenting everything. Tasha told David she'd found a way to help him. She could wire the money, but she needed some additional information for her bank's security purposes. David was so excited that he immediately started providing details: account numbers, routing information, even his business partner's contact information for verification. With each piece of information David provided, Tasha was building a bigger picture of the scam operation. She discovered this wasn't just one guy working alone. This was part of a larger network with multiple fake profiles, shared scripts, and sophisticated money laundering operations. Tasha kept David on the hook for weeks, always promising the money was coming, but needing just one more piece of information. She got him to reveal the names of other victims, details about how the money was moved, even information about other scammers in the network. Finally, Tasha decided it was time to drop the hammer. She scheduled a video call with David, telling him she was ready to send the money and just needed to verify a few final details. David was practically salivating with anticipation. He'd been working this mark for months, and he was finally about to cash in. He answered the call with his biggest smile, ready to close the deal. "Hello, David," Tasha said sweetly. "Or should I call you by your real name?" David's face went white. "What are you talking about? My name is David Wilson." Tasha smiled. "No, your name is Emmanuel Okafor. You're 28 years old, you live in Lagos, Nigeria, and you've been running romance scams for the past 3 years. Oh, and those pictures you've been using? They belong to a man named Robert Martinez from Denver, Colorado. He's a real businessman who's happily married with 3 kids." David started to stammer, but Tasha wasn't finished. "I know about your operation, Emmanuel. I know about the other profiles you're running. I know about Sarah Thompson, the 60-year-old widow from Florida, who sent you $8,000. I know about Patricia Chen from California, who lost her entire retirement savings to your network. I know about James Riley, the divorced father from Texas, who borrowed against his house to send money to who he thought was a Russian woman named Svetlana." David's hands were shaking now. How do you know all this?" Tasha leaned back in her chair, and for the first time, David could see the steel behind her kind eyes. "Because, Emmanuel, I spent 25 years as an FBI special agent investigating financial crimes and fraud. Romance scams were my specialty. I've put dozens of people like you in prison." David's mouth dropped open. He tried to disconnect the call, but Tasha kept talking. "Oh, don't hang up now. We're just getting to the good part. You see, while you were busy trying to scam me, I was busy collecting evidence against you and your entire network. Every conversation we've had, every piece of information you've given me, every detail about your operation, it's all been documented and shared with the appropriate authorities." Tasha continued. her voice calm and professional. Your friend Chukwu, who helps you with the fake documents. I know about him too. And Princess, the woman who helps you with the female profiles? She's already been arrested in Abuja. The authorities raided her apartment this morning. David's face went from white to green. That's not possible. Oh, but it is. You see, while you thought you were scamming some lonely old woman, you were actually confessing to a federal agent. Every crime you committed, every victim you told me about, every detail of your operation, you handed it all to me on a silver platter. Tasha pulled out a thick folder. I have statements from 17 of your victims. I have bank records showing how the money flowed through your network. I have screenshots of all your fake profiles, records of your IP addresses, even security footage from the internet cafes you use. The Lagos State Police have been very cooperative, Tasha continued. They were quite interested in your operation, especially when I showed them evidence of the local money mules you've been using. Turns out several of them are wanted for other crimes. David finally found his voice. You can't do this. I'm not even in America. Tasha laughed. Oh, Emmanuel, you've been scamming American citizens, using American banks, and stealing money from people in multiple states. That makes it a federal crime under U.S. jurisdiction. And thanks to international cooperation agreements, you're going to be extradited to face charges here. She leaned forward. But here's the thing. I'm retired now. This isn't my job anymore. I just didn't like someone trying to scam my family, so I decided to make it my personal project. Your laptop is about to be seized, Tasha said, checking her watch. The authorities should be arriving at your location in about, 3 minutes. I've been tracking your IP address this entire time, and they've been coordinating with local police. David jumped up from his chair. This is impossible. You're bluffing. Tasha smiled. Am I? Why don't you check your phone? I believe you should have some missed calls from your partners in the network. They've been trying to warn you that their operations have been shut down. David frantically grabbed his phone. Sure enough, he had 17 missed calls and dozens of text messages, all in various stages of panic. No, 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 this can't be happening, David shouted. Oh, but it is, Tasha said calmly. And here's the best part. Every victim you scammed is going to get their money back. We've frozen all the accounts, seized all the assets, and recovered most of the funds. Your victims will finally get justice. Right on cue, there was loud banging on David's door. Voices shouting in both English and Yoruba. David looked at the camera with pure terror in his eyes. This is your doing, he screamed at Tasha. Yes, it is, she replied. And I'm not sorry. You made a career out of preying on lonely people, stealing their money, and breaking their hearts. You targeted vulnerable individuals who just wanted to find love and companionship. You destroyed lives, Emmanuel. And now you're going to pay for it. The door burst open, and Nigerian police officers flooded into the room. David was screaming and trying to explain, but it was too late. As they handcuffed him, Tasha could hear him begging, trying to negotiate, promising to return all the money. Goodbye, Emmanuel, Tasha said sweetly, just before ending the call. 3 months later, Emmanuel Okafor was extradited to the United States, where he faced federal charges for wire fraud, money laundering, and running a criminal enterprise. He was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison and ordered to pay restitution to his victims. The takedown of his network led to the arrest of 14 other scammers across Nigeria and Ghana. Authorities recovered over $2 million in stolen funds, which was returned to victims. Tasha became something of a legend in the online dating safety community. She started giving lectures to seniors groups about how to spot romance scams, and she even consulted with dating apps on improving their security measures. But the best part? Tasha never did need that dating app to find happiness. Turns out, taking down an international crime ring was way more satisfying than any romantic dinner could have been. She framed the thank you letters from victims whose lives she'd helped save. She kept the commendation letter from the FBI, thanking her for her exceptional volunteer service. And she definitely kept the newspaper clipping with the headline, Retired FBI Agent Turns Tables on Romance Scammer. The moral of the story? Never underestimate someone based on their age, gender, or apparent vulnerability. My Aunt Tasha looked like an easy target. A divorced woman in her 50s, new to online dating, probably lonely and desperate for attention. What the scammer didn't realize was that he was dealing with someone who had spent decades hunting people exactly like him. Someone who knew every trick, every manipulation tactic, every red flag to watch for. Someone who had the skills, knowledge, and connections to not just avoid being scammed, but to take down the entire operation. Emmanuel thought he was the hunter, but he was actually the prey. And Aunt Tasha? She was the apex predator he never saw coming. These romance scammers count on their victims being too embarrassed to report the crime, too isolated to seek help, too trusting to question their stories. They prey on basic human needs, the desire for love, companionship, and connection. But they also count on people not fighting back. They assume their victims will just quietly accept the loss and move on. They never expect someone like my Aunt Tasha, someone with the skills and determination to turn the tables completely. Tasha always says that revenge is a dish best served with a federal indictment and an 8-year prison sentence. And honestly, I couldn't agree more. So the next time you think about underestimating someone, remember this story. Remember that the sweet older lady on the dating app might just be a retired federal agent who's about to make your life very, very complicated. And to all the scammers out there listening to this, you never know who you're actually talking to. That lonely widow might be a retired cop. That heartbroken divorcee might be a cybersecurity expert. That vulnerable senior might just be someone who's been waiting their entire career for someone exactly like you to make the mistake of targeting them. My Aunt Tasha proved that sometimes the best defense is a good offense. And sometimes the person you think is the perfect victim is actually your worst nightmare come true. Don't mess with retired FBI agents. They have time, skills, and absolutely no patience for your nonsense.